Hello everyone! Today I'm gonna explain the basics of Bitcoin and blockchain. It should be only a general overview of the system and what makes blockchain so interesting. Details about wallets, transactions and everything else you want to know I will explain in later videos. So let's start. So, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin was introduced in 2008 and it was invented by the infamous Satoshi Nakamoto, whose identity is still unknown to this day. There were several rumors who it might be, but so far nothing has been confirmed. Satoshi initiated the first transaction on the Bitcoin network on the 3rd of January 2009. When Bitcoin appeared, it was the first cryptocurrency in existence, and up to this day it is still the king of the field. Over the past decade, a lot of new cryptocurrencies emerged, and today we look at over 5,000 different coins with different purposes and use cases. Because Bitcoin is the first in its field and compared to other cryptocurrencies simpler to understand, I use it to explain the cryptocurrency space. Bitcoin itself, and almost every cryptocurrency, is used similar to a regular currency to transmit value between two parties. The number of possible Bitcoins is limited to 21 million, while at the moment there are around 18 million in existence. Newly mined coins are distributed as reward to miners securing the network, which I will explain later in the video. Bitcoin is the first application of a blockchain. This underlying technology allows the storing of all transactions in a ledger. So blockchain technology is similar to a database table. A table in a database contains several rows, with each row representing one data point, similar to like you probably manage your Excel sheets. In Bitcoin's case, one entry contains all information about one money transaction, like for example, the date of the transaction, the sender address, the receiver address, and the amount. A user's account balance isn't stored anywhere, but it is calculated as the sum of all past transactions stored in the blockchain. But not every entry is directly added to the blockchain, but several transactions are aggregated into one block and then added to the already existing data. That is why it is called blockchain, a chain of blocks. So you might wonder, what is the big difference between a blockchain and a regular database? The unique thing is that this blockchain with all the past transaction data is distributed among many different users and their computers around the world. Every user has the same version of the blockchain since the beginning of its existence. Because of this distribution, the data cannot really be tampered with, since the faked version would be different than all other versions in the network, and by looking at the majority, the cheater could be immediately identified and would be punished. If you ask yourself, who compares these versions and writes new blocks to the blockchain? Here the miners come into play. Mining itself is basically just a process of solving a complicated cryptographic puzzle, which should take a predefined amount of time, and its complexity is dependent on the computing power in the network. The more computing power, the faster a computer can perform calculations. So the more brain power in the network, the more complex the puzzle must be that it isn't solved too quickly. The fewer computing power, the easier the puzzle must be to remain within the targeted time frame. You can imagine this puzzle like, I think about a number between 1 and 10 and you have to guess which one. So you basically will try all numbers from 1 until 10, and if you find the correct number, you've solved the puzzle. Since this is a lot of work, especially the bigger my number range will become, Bitcoin mining is called proof of work. Every new block the miners have to solve this puzzle. If one miner finds the solution, he presents it to all other participants. As in most mathematical equations, the solution of the problem is difficult, but checking if the solution is correct can be done instantly. So all other users check if the solution is correct, and if 51% approve, the miner gets rewarded with new bitcoins and the block is stored into the blockchain. This new version of the blockchain will then be distributed again among all participants. Changes to the algorithms in the background, calculating for example the complexity of the puzzle or how transactions are aggregated into blocks, have to be approved by the majority of the network as well. One famous possible attack of a blockchain network would be the 51% attack. To accomplish this, you need to control the majority of the network's computing power. If you do so, you could change past data or insert fake new data and approve it yourself. But the bigger the Bitcoin network grows, the harder is of course such an attack. Furthermore, all the transactions are more difficult to change and fake due to some programmatic measures and algorithms. And to prevent such attacks, the complexity of this puzzle and the required computing power must be high, so the hurdle to attack the network aren't worth the effort. And as you also can guess, computing power costs money. Today, the necessary computing power to participate in mining is so big that it would be insanely expensive to try such an attack. Furthermore, if you get caught, you get punished, for example, by not participating anymore in the mining, and so your investment would be lost. One big criticism of Bitcoin is always that it uses too much power and damages our environment. For any proof-of-work coin, it is true that the network needs quite a lot of power, but this is necessary to secure the network against attacks. If you imagine that one day a blockchain could take over a big part of all money transactions in the world, it is however again relatively low. Other cryptocurrencies use different mechanisms, like proof of stake, where you don't offer computing power but lock in your investment. But the principle is always the same. You invest into the network and would get punished if you aren't reliable and try to attack it. So every participant doesn't have any incentive to do so. Now you probably understand the unique and groundbreaking technology of all blockchain projects: decentralization. For the first time in history, it is possible that two parties transact and trust each other without any central entity like a bank, insurance company, or something else. That is also why it is ridiculous if somebody tells you, I believe in blockchain, but I think Bitcoin won't be successful because any bank can make their own blockchain. This just isn't the same at all. This wouldn't be decentralized and their blockchain wouldn't be much different than today's status quo. That there is no central entity between your transactions means you have full control over your money and data, and nobody else. Nobody can block your account or steal your data. Even a transaction using a rather slow cryptocurrency like Bitcoin takes minutes with minimal fees compared to 1 or even several days for normal bank transactions. And there are even cryptocurrencies where you can send money instantly without any fees at all, no matter where you or the receiver of the money is located around the world. Try that with a bank account or something old school like Western Union. But decentralization doesn't stop at just sending money without any bank in between. It can revolutionize every industry. Especially the power to write data to the blockchain that cannot be tampered with later on presents endless possibilities. Every entry you make into the blockchain cannot be edited or deleted afterwards, but it will stay there in this state forever. Just think about the last used car you've bought. Did you trust the number of miles this car has done so far? If any car would store in regular intervals its mileage directly to the blockchain, this number couldn't be tampered with and you could completely rely on it during the purchase. And you wouldn't have to trust the company to check if the mileage is correct, since this process is done completely decentralized. So any data stored on the blockchain is safe against faking. Diplomas, work references, passports, contracts, anything you can imagine. And to get to a counterargument a lot of people say against Bitcoin, Bitcoin is only used by criminals and can be used for money laundering. Bitcoin isn't private as the general public always thinks. If I know your public key, which is basically your account number, I can look up every single transaction you have done. So in comparison to cash or any regular bank account, Bitcoin is much more transparent to the authorities and even to the general public. Of course, there are blockchains that have privacy features or are completely private, but not Bitcoin so far. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions or further ideas for future videos, just drop me a comment.